Coming up next, we take a look at something that's become part of our lives, the personal computer. It's a sometimes fickle and mysterious machine. Stay tuned to learn how to deal with the most common computer frustrations, because the better part starts now.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
With me in the studio today is Nova Giragos. He owns a computer service company installing and repairing for businesses and homes. Welcome, Nova.
Thank you.
Let's start from the beginning, turning on the computer. A year ago, I brought this computer. I set it up, turned it on. In a matter of seconds, it was ready to go. Now it's a year later. I turn it on, and it's taking a long while, like maybe several minutes, before everything's up on the screen and it's ready to go. What's going on?
Your computer over time does become slower. It is true. And during the duration of the time that you own your computer, the software that you have on your computer accumulate new updates. And when these updates are installed, they become heavier, and the computer starts to seem like it is slowing down because it has to process more information. Also, during the time that you own your computer, you probably do install many software programs on your system, and all of those accumulated together also slow down the computer. That's generally why computers slow down over time.
All right, so how can we clean off such excess processes and other, as you say, things that weight it down and have the computer run lean again?
Some of the programs you can remove on your own if you're not using it anymore. It's a good idea to clean it up. It'll open up a lot of space, and it does increase the performance of the computer. But some of them you cannot, because they're just updates to the existing programs that you already have and you are already using it. So go ahead and do the cleanup on the programs that you don't need anymore.
Okay, now, is this the reason why sometimes a key press takes a long time to respond?
It is. It could also be related to the antivirus program that you have, or if you have viruses and malware on your system. All of those things can bog down the computer quite a bit.
So malware can do it too?
Yes, it can. Yes.
All right, well, we'll talk about malware later. Does there come a point, though, where you say, look, this thing is so full, it's too slow, maybe I should just reinstall everything and make it factory new again? Is that, does the time come when that's a good idea?
It does, and usually we see this happening after about 1 year of owning your system. That's around the time where folks think that maybe reinstalling the operating system might be a good idea. When you do that process, it does wipe everything off of your system. All your files, or pictures, everything is going to be gone, and basically you're starting from scratch, like you said, factory fresh. So it's important to back up your information before you do such a task. However, it is never going to be like it was the first day, because as soon as you reinstall the operating system, the Windows or whatever operating system you have will start downloading the updates again, and your computer is going to be slightly slower than it was when you first purchased it.
So just the operating system updates and no other additional software application stuff can actually slow down a machine? Just the operating system updates?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, now, sometimes a program will just refuse to respond. You know, no matter what buttons you hit and so on, nothing happens. And what is a good way to kill that program and restart it?
Well, if you're absolutely getting no response from your computer, there are two ways of getting out of it. One of them is to unplug the power cord, which will just kill the power. And the other way is to hold down the power button on your system for approximately 5 seconds, and that will also kill the computer. Now, in general, it's not a good idea to kill the system that way, because it can corrupt files, and you may not be able to boot up your computer again, and that's going to be a task of, again, reinstalling the operating system from scratch.
Oh boy, and that will take. Now, when you reinstall the operating system, of course, you have to have everything backed up somewhere. And so we'll talk about backups in a while, but so okay, we talked about what happens when one program won't work. Now, what happens if the computer itself just refuses to respond?
If you're starting the computer and it's just not booting up to the point where you can use it, it probably means that there are some corrupt files or the system has lost its direction how to get started, and you definitely want to get that somebody to take a look at that computer for you. If you're somewhat tech savvy and you feel comfortable reinstalling the operating system, you can do that. Just remember, you're going to lose all the files that you do not have a backup of. We'll talk about that later, but that's pretty much the best solution for fixing this kind of a problem.
So if the thing has completely died, now assuming that it isn't something like an unplugged keyboard or an unplugged mouse or something like that, because that happens too, but if we're talking really a locked up machine.
That's correct. You always want to make sure that all your connections are plugged in and tight.
Yes.
Sometimes when the keyboard is not plugged in, the computer immediately gives you an error message during the boot up process, warning you that the keyboard is not plugged in. And so basically you're forced to attach the keyboard before you can continue.
Well, we talked about backups, and that's an important part of running a computer system at home. Could you just go over the various types of backups there are and how would you go about it, and maybe there's more than one kind of backup?
Yes. First of all, it is important to take in consideration that a backup is really a duplicate of your existing files. You do not want to move your files to a backup location and just have that one copy of your files. So the first thing you got to do is make a duplicate of your files. Now, how you make a duplicate is the different types of backups that are available. There are some that are done over the internet, they're online or cloud-based, and there are some that you actually have the physical backup drive with you next to your computer that you can back up your files onto. The cloud-based or internet-based backups usually are subscription-based, and you have to pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee to make your backups. If you're going to the store and you're going to buy a backup drive and attach it to your computer so you can make a backup copy of your files, then that process is less expensive in the long run because you just pay one time for that drive and you really don't have to pay for it again. However, you do need to set up the backup, either an automated process or do it manually to that backup drive so you have two copies of it. The online version of it usually has a wizard that'll allow you to automatically select the files that are important to you, and it takes care of the process of backing up.
Yes, generally the files that are the most important are the things that you yourself have created, because the application stuff you can always reinstall.
Correct.
But the things that you created, you can't reinstall unless you already have a copy somewhere.
And those are the ones that you want to back up onto the drive, like your pictures, your music, your documents. Mm-hmm. Those are the things you want to back up onto the backup drive, and leave the programs. You really can't back up the programs because they need to be reinstalled from the CD or the original source where they came from.
Now, this kind of backup assumes that the physical place where your computer is going to be secure in itself, is not going to be destroyed by a fire or an earthquake. But as long as that happens, then having things on an external drive is probably the best way to go, assuming that. And I guess you're telling me the cloud-based applications are primarily against the disaster that might hit your whole location. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct, yes. If you do have your backups in-house on a backup drive next to your computer, if there were a fire or a flood, you would lose the original copy and a backup copy,
yes.
So that kind of defeats the purpose. So some customers of ours, they will take the backup drive and they will put it in a different physical location, like in a safe, mm-hmm. or in a bank safe deposit box, and perhaps they have two backup drives that they rotate, and every week they switch this backup drive. So in the worst case, they would lose a week's worth of backups, or a week's worth of their files that they've worked on.
Yeah, and that's for a catastrophic disaster
Correct.
That we're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. But again, are there other cloud-based application systems that we can talk about? And in general, let's talk a little bit about the cloud and what that really means, because it's one of those buzzwords that you see nowadays, even in the mainstream press.
That's correct. The cloud is a fancy word for internet, and so when they use the word cloud-based, it means that the company that you're dealing with is online somewhere, and you don't really have physical access to that material or the product that you're using. Now, it could be a backup drive that's cloud-based, so you don't have physical access to that. But there are many services out there that are cloud-based. A very common example of it, and maybe we've not thought of it that way, but it is your email. If you're using email with Yahoo or Gmail or Hotmail, all of those computers that are processing your email are on the internet, and they're technically cloud-based. But these days we see more of the backup services that are cloud-based. We see music services that are cloud-based. We even see telephone systems and telephone services that are cloud-based, meaning that the computers that are processing, the services that are processing the information that you're using are done over the internet.
Yeah, and I remember recently I saw a briefing made by the CEO of a major computer company who showed off his data farm in North Carolina, which was apparently this enormous complex of computer buildings, probably about the size of an army base, that just was all this backup stuff and all this online storage for all the customers of that particular company. So it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, the one other thing I wanted to add is that usually cloud-based companies, they have many redundant systems in place. Even if they have a large facility in a particular city, what they normally do is they will have a duplicate facility in a different city. In case something were to happen to that particular facility, the customers don't know that there is an issue with the network, and they're able to continue using the service as if there was nothing wrong.
Yes, well, that's pretty impressive. Now let's go away from the cloud and come back home to our own little machine. So away from the cloud, I'm sitting at home. I just found out I deleted something I really didn't mean to. What can I do?
Well, check your trash bin or the recycle bin and see if your file ended up over there. You could also press the Control and the Z buttons.
Control Z, yes.
Control Z on your keyboard to undo what just happened. Now, the Control Z is only useful if you press those keys right after the deletion of the file or whatever task that you did. If you're lucky enough, that will remember it and it will undo that particular process. But do check your trash bin or the recycle bin, and if you still can't find it over there, there are a few tools available, software tools available that may be able to retrieve that file after it's been deleted.
Let me tell you about something that happened to me the other day. I got an email from Visa confirming a charge from several $100s for some merchandise that I know I didn't order, and in fact it's not the sort of thing I would order. And right at the bottom of the email has this link that says, if you have any questions, please click here. What's going on?
It is probably a fraud email or a spam email.
Yes.
Trying to trick you to click on that link for their own benefit. Now, who these people are, it's unclear at this point.
Yes.
But there is.
But they're not Visa.
It is not Visa. And it most likely is trying to either get you to purchase a different type of software, or clicking on that link will download a virus into your computer. So be very careful about those emails. Typical things to look for in such an email is if it has your name stated in that email, it is likely that it is a legitimate email. If it does not indicate your name inside that email, it is probably spam. But if you're unsure, you can always call the company, the credit card company, and double check with them before clicking on any link. Credit card companies usually have a toll-free number on the back of the card you can call. They are open 24/7, and double check with them before clicking on anything, because if you do get a virus, it is a headache to get it removed from your system, and it's going to cost you some money and a lot of time.
Well, one policy I have, some of my friends have, is that if we get some sort of communication from the bank and they ask us to check on something, I don't click on the link. Instead, I go and type the bank's URL into my browser to go see and sign into my own account to see if there's any reference to what they're talking about.
Absolutely, yes. That's definitely another way of checking, double checking if that email is legitimate.
And at least once I've gone in there and found out there's absolutely no reference to what they're talking about,
Correct,
no
yes.
weird charge and nothing else. But speaking of malware, though, first of all, I know that a long time ago, malware was viruses written by essentially frustrated kids who wanted to take their revenge out on the world. But I think it's gotten more sophisticated today. And what kinds of malware and what kind of ways of delivering this malware are there that can you talk about?
A recent study showed that if a computer is unprotected from by a antivirus software,
Yes.
it can be infected within 90 seconds
Ooh.
just by being on. That means that the user is not even using the computer. So it's really important to have an updated antivirus on your system. But there are many ways for the virus to sneak into your computer. But the most common ones are spread through email.
Yes.
And the next common one is when you're browsing the internet and you're searching for different things on the internet, cars or flowers or whatever it might be. You'll get lots of results, and some of those links will take you to a website that is infected, and through that website your computer can also get infected.
Okay, now we talked about one kind of email bait, you know, the fraudulent charge. Are there some others? I know that we used to have security alerts a long time ago.
That's right. Yes. Sometimes when you're browsing the internet, usually this is you'll get a pop-up on your screen that says
Yes.
that you may have 300 infections on your computer. Click here to purchase the software. I don't really trust those those companies because it was not something that you were looking for, and it just popped up on your screen. So there's definitely some revenue for that company to be made. I would definitely close that window and monitor your system to see if there are any suspicious behaviors on the computer that you didn't have before, because that's a good indication that you are already infected by something. So if you get this pop-up window that comes up all the time and it's the same window, then you know that there is something, a malware on your computer that is trying to get you to buy something, and it's most likely not legitimate.
So let's go over a little bit what overall methods we can use to protect our machines at home.
Safe browsing is the most important way of keeping viruses from getting into your computer. But of course, you must have an updated antivirus installed at all times on your computer. And then you have some confidence that there's somebody that's looking out for you. Although antivirus companies will never guarantee that they will catch all the viruses, so that you're still vulnerable to some of the newer ones that they have not found a fix for. Until that time, everybody is vulnerable, really. But so this is where the safe browsing really comes in as a useful method of avoiding getting viruses. So if you're browsing on the internet, make sure you don't click on links that are not related to what you're looking for, and that is really the best way of avoiding getting viruses.
Now, are there any good free anti-malware protections, legitimate ones, not the pop-up ones? And you know, what's the difference between a free one and one that you pay for?
The free ones are very good. The ones that you pay for are slightly better. They have some additional functionality that if you're unsure or how to be a safe browser, or you get a lot of spam emails and such, it might be a good idea to purchase one of the paid type antiviruses. But the free ones are just as good. I myself at home have a free one installed on my computer, and I've had very good success with it. I hadn't had any viruses for many years now. Some antiviruses that you can download for free. The one that I would prefer is the AVG. So you can go to free.avg.com, and there you will have your free version listed there as well as the paid version. So you want to make sure that you click on the one that says free version. There are some limitations of who can use the free versions. Make sure to read the terms and conditions, and make sure that you are qualified to use the free version. It's usually meant for home users, one installation only, and at that point You can download the software and do the installation on your system. Usually the antivirus, all antiviruses will do a pre-scan of your system at the end to make sure everything is good and clear. And then after that, they will continue on monitoring your system. That's not where it ends, though, because these software, including the paid versions, do expire after about a year. So keep an eye on it. If you get pop-ups on the bottom of the screen from that particular antivirus company, make sure you pay attention to those and update it when necessary.
Now, okay, I did all those things. I did all the right things. My machine is protected. But my friends keep complaining about spam coming from my email address. What's going on?
That has been pretty popular recently. We've gotten many calls about folks sending out emails that are spam to each other. And the best way to prevent this is to change your password on your email. That will usually stop the spam emails being sent out. After that point, we can take a look at your computer, do a complete scan of your system, make sure that there are no viruses found by the antivirus software. And if you continue on seeing this type of behavior, emails being sent out on your behalf, I would definitely talk to a professional to see what other solutions you might have.
But is it possible that somebody just picks up my email address from any public location and then just uses that email address as the return address on his spam?
It is possible to do that. However, the email companies can pick up on that and stop that particular user. The way that they're getting, the way that these emails are now being sent out, we recently talked to a few of these companies like Yahoo and Hotmail. What is happening is the account is being hacked into. Your account online is being hacked into. The spammers are able to figure out what your username and password are. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they'll set up another computer somewhere else and use that computer to send out emails on your behalf. So by changing your password, you're essentially disabling their function to be able to send out spam emails.
Okay. Now let's go to another topic. A lot of people in their homes have now installed routers. And some people still don't quite understand what a router is and what it does in the home. Could you just give us a quick overview of what that is?
Yes, a router is a fancy word for a splitter. Now, in the computer connectivity, you can't just split the cable like you were able to do with analog telephones.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to get a router that will split the incoming internet connection and allow multiple computers to use that one internet connection to communicate to the internet.
Now, I think a lot of these are wireless routers, right? So somebody can have their laptop anywhere in the house.
That's right, yes. It converts the internet connection into a wireless signal and shares that with the computers that you have that are not connected with a wire. That's correct.
Okay, so but sometimes some people complain that they've set up this nice Wi-Fi, they call it Wi-Fi wireless router in the house, and sometimes their laptops cannot connect to that router. What's going on?
Some of the homes have some chicken wire,
or chicken wire.
some type of materials in their walls that prevent the signal from being transmitted clearly to the other side of the house or the other side of the room. So I would definitely check to see if the problem that they're experiencing is true in all locations of the house or only particular parts of the house. If it's just the particular parts of the house, then it's definitely as the signal being blocked by something.
Chicken wire.
Chicken wire in the walls. If the problem exists, even when you're close to your router, I would check out the router, make sure it's not burnt out. Sometimes they do burn out. Sometimes the power adapters burn out, and they're not providing sufficient power to the router, and the router starts acting funny.
Well, we're coming towards the end. This has been very interesting. We're coming towards the end, so maybe now you could just give us some overall good maintenance practices for home machines.
It's a good idea to have your computer checked out every 6 months to a year. During this checkout process, the technician who is servicing your system will do regular maintenances on your computer, do a lot of cleanup, make sure all of your programs are updated, including the antivirus. If you don't have one, you can talk to them about getting one, get that installed on there to make sure that everything is up to date. that would be the number one key of having a good performing system, and to have a computer that will last you many years.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure this has been very useful to a lot of members of our audience. And no doubt there'll be people who have more questions. Would you like to give us some contact information to people who could get in touch with you if they have further questions on any of these topics?
Absolutely. Our business is open from 8 in the morning till 10 at night, so lots of good hours that you can call. The telephone number is 1-800-811-1495.
Okay, well, thank you once again.
Good to be here.